Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Every Day is Friday. Before we dive in, make sure you remember to subscribe so you never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Today, we're talking with Milo Miller. He grew up Amish and now he's sharing his story with the world. From his childhood in a small Amish community to leaving at just 15 to traveling across America, Milo has lived life to the fullest. Let's dive in. And Milo, how you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm doing wonderful. And for the listeners who may not be familiar with your line of work yet, can you give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do?
So my name is Milo Miller. I was born and raised Amish in a very strict Amish community 25 years ago. Actually, I left at 17. I left the Amish and escaped to the English world.
It's always fascinating to hear the why behind everyone's passions and everything what they're doing. I mean, we talked a little bit over the DM and Chad. I mean, how did your grandfather help start the Amish community?
So my grandpa, the way the Amish communities get started is there's just a group of people that decide that they want to start a new community. So my grandpa went to this community called Orange County, Indiana, which is in Paoli, Indiana. And he started that community and it grew fairly large. And then he actually got booted out of there. Some people didn't get along with him and he pretty much got chased out of the community that he actually started. And then he moved to Marietta, Ohio, where he started another Amish community.
Wow, that's incredible. I mean, how do you describe what a normal day for an Amish child would look like?
So a normal day would be getting up at 5 a.m. You would go out and help do the chores, which is like milking cows by hand. You're assigned maybe you're assigned to just milking cows, or maybe you're assigned to go feed different animals. And then once you're done, you would go in, eat breakfast, and then you're assigned like your daily chores, like, hey, go out and plow the fields or husk corn by hand or whatever that is. And then you come in for lunch, the same thing in the afternoon and that evening. In my family, we did chores like around 5 p.m. And then after that, we could kind of do whatever we wanted to. It was like our free time. We didn't work past that time. So
That is
that's kind
so
of like your
that is so
everyday norm.
different from kids nowadays.
Yeah, the technology between now and then of how I was raised, not having any technology like a radio or anything like that, although I did get caught with one a couple times and got busted. And my mother caught me, made me throw it on the ground and crash it. And I was like, please don't tell my dad. And she said she wouldn't. And it was just one of those things. It was wild. I mean, I was scared half to death that I had it, but it was just something that I had some English friends and I was like, hey, can you get me a radio? And they agreed they would. And so I got a little too bold of where I was listening.
Yeah, being Amish sounds so fascinating at times. I mean, was there any like fun games or any activities that growing up that, being Amish, it would be like different than normal kids today?
So in the Amish community, a lot of times it's just like playing games. You kind of come up with your own games, like outside games. My brother and I, we always hung out in the woods. We had like sticks. We used those for our horses. We had like this whole farm that we had. We were farming. It was all imaginary. And then there was times where you'd be sitting like in the house and we had this bar stool and I had this long bench and I would have that bar stool and literally I would be driving a semi. Like it was in my head. That was a dream of mine. I wanted to drive a semi when I was Amish. It was just fascinating to see those 18 wheelers roll down the road. And it was a dream come true. I did get my CDL license after I left. I did get my opportunity to drive one of those.
No, that sounds like a special part of your childhood.
Yeah, it was just, it's a lot of like, I mean, the Amish life is not necessarily where you don't have anything to do. I mean, my brother and I trained horses as a family, like that after chore time. Sometimes we just go outside and just come up with some games and stuff like that. Or you would read a book. We were allowed to read books. Certain books we weren't allowed to read in my community. Each community has kind of got its different rules. So mine was very strict. So there was some times where you'd have to hide that book so your parents wouldn't see it, and or especially my dad.
Yeah, what did you learn most from your Amish like schooling?
So in the Amish school, we would learn math. We had English, spelling. We didn't learn much history, and the reason was is because there was like 30 to 40 kids in a one-room schoolhouse. There was a one teacher. That teacher was around 18 years old, and it was just too much of a workload. So we also had phonics, 4 days a week. So we learned math, English, spelling, phonics. And then on Fridays, we would just learn German. That day was we had to read German, we had to write German, we had German spelling. Because in the Amish community, their Bibles are actually written in German. They read German, but they speak a dialect called Pennsylvania Dutch. It's not necessarily Dutch, it's kind of a German slang that they kind of, I think, kind of came up with their own language.
That's amazing. It's almost as if like the Amish community is like there's a wall and you're not allowed to like go over it or look, surpass it. You can see everything over the wall, but you're not allowed to go over the wall and go on the other side.
Yeah, they're always taught, they teach you so everything over that wall is not like if you do that, there's consequences that you're going to have. Like for me, now that I've jumped that wall, my family actually thinks that I'm a lost soul. Like my mother told me when I visited her the last time, she said, now you know that I think the Amish life is the right way. And she's like, you know better from what you did. And she's like, you could be Amish. You could be a good Amish man right now. And well, I know the difference now. And I just told her, Mom, like there is no, like if there's a God, there's only one God. We both serve the same God. You don't have to be Amish to have eternal life or whatever. And that's what but she really thought that because I'm born and raised Amish, I have to be Amish to have that eternal life. That's kind of how they believe. But because like you weren't Amish, it's okay for you, which doesn't make much sense at all.
Now, Milo, I'm trying to really kind of paint the picture here. What were some of the strict rules you had to follow being Amish?
So some of the strict rules, like clothing, was like really. I mean, they would watch you very closely, like your hat. Uh, I lived in a couple different communities. Like we had different kinds of hat. We couldn't like have hair sticking out from the bottom of our hat, and that was because I think that rule came in for me. I used to do that all the time. I have my hair sticking down, and it was like that cool Amish kid. And then they made a rule that you had to not have any hair out from the underneath your hat, and half of your ears had to be covered. Now, like I said, I lived in very strict communities, and then I lived in a community that wasn't quite as strict, but still very strict. So your haircut would come straight across, and then it would come almost straight down, and then it would go back. It was the most ugliest haircut you could ever have. And my dad, coming from a very strict community, his dad being a bishop, my dad actually was ordained a preacher. I always felt like my dad wanted me to look as ugly as possible. And I always had an eye out for the girls. Like it was just one of those things like, and I would always trim my own hair. You couldn't do that. And then the shirts, like we had 3 buttons here. We had a 1-inch collar. You could not have your collar like open. You'd have to have it closed. And then your pants, they were like we call them barn door pants because they like have a flap down. And in my communities, the leg size had to be big enough that you could put your shoe through it. Now, you wouldn't necessarily put your shoes on and put your pants on, but that was just how big it had to be. Like the women's dresses had to be like so many inches from the ground. They had to they would use straight pins in the front to keep their dresses closed. And the reason for the straight pins was, I believe, is because you could put more pins in there, because if you could see some skin, that was bad. Like
That was a no-no.
that was a no-no. So the clothing was like a big thing. Like even like your beard, like if you had your beard and you went somewhere and it looked like maybe you trimmed that beard, people would watch you, all the members, like you would get in so much trouble. Like if you shaved a certain area of your beard you weren't supposed to, just it's just a whole bunch of crazy rules that they come up with. And I actually, I knew I didn't want to be Amish, but I was joining church. They wanted me to become baptized, and I knew I didn't want to. So I did go to 3 classes. The third class, I mean, they named so many rules that I was like taken back. Like I was like, wow, like I didn't even know about some of these rules that they were naming. Then after that, that was my last session that I went to. I was like, I kind of got to leave now because I would be baptized before I was 18. And so that's why I left when I was 17, because I didn't want to be a member. Because when you're not, some communities, when you're not a member, they don't shun you and they allow you to come home and this and that. But my parents, they say that, you know better, we're going to shun you anyways. So I'm not welcome at my parents' house or to even come around. They said they never want to see me again.
Now, Milo, who makes all the rules? Is there a hierarchy in being in the Amish community?
So the church, the Amish church, the members of the church are actually the ones that really make the rules. A lot of people point out, oh, the bishop. The bishop is kind of like the spokesperson. So Sundays, if somebody's in trouble, the bishop will get up and address the issue, say, hey, this person's in trouble. Like, you're going to have to get on your knees, or we're going to we're going to strip your membership for 3 weeks or whatever. And you're going to have to prove to us that you're never going to do this again. And then we're going to give it back. But it's kind of the members of the church. They have to vote. Each member has to vote on the rules and stuff like that. But most times people are pressured into it. So they just vote along with what the bishop says and what the preachers and administration says, because they fear. They just fear if they wouldn't, they'd have that black mark on them.
You know, I've always wondered. I mean, how do the Amish view like things like TV, music, and like the internet?
So they view that. They view it as the devil. Like we could not look at a TV. Like I remember I went on this trip with my parents, and on the bus they had TVs and they were playing this movie, and I laid way back and kind of like hid, and I was watching this movie, and my dad kept like flipping around, like looking to see if I was looking. I tried to get down, but even if we went to Walmart, we were not supposed to look, because they believe all those images on there, we're only supposed to have one image of us. So if there's a person on there, even like to go as far as a cereal box having a human picture on it, they would take a black magic marker and scribble out the face, because they don't believe that you should have an image of yourself, because they think it's like you're worshiping yourself, like an idol, like you have an idol. So the internet, they just believe that they don't have self-control. So if they would have the internet, they wouldn't have self-control to go like do bad things, go into things that they shouldn't do. They just don't believe that they have that self-control, so they don't allow the internet.
Wow, that's
Or
so
even
interesting.
phones, even any kind of that technology, like in my community. Now, certain communities, yeah, they have cell phones, they have the internet, like the community here in Sarasota, they allow that stuff. They allow cell phones, they allow electricity, AC, everything pretty much that I have. Even some of them do have computers, but they're quite different than how I was raised.
Why is that? Why are the two different communities different?
So each community is totally different, and I don't know that, because when I was Amish, I would ask my dad, so why is that community allowed to do that? And I would always, they just kind of shut you up. And well, that's not the way we do it. And we are better than they are. And they're kind of, not necessarily say that they're lost, but they are kind of lost in a way. So if you would move to that community, my dad wouldn't say, oh, you're going to go to hell for moving there. But it would just be a lot of my siblings actually did move to less strict communities. And it's like, he's not very happy with them, but he's still happy that they're Amish.
It's almost as if there's like so many different clans, and then all the clans, there's just a hierarchy into it.
Yeah.
And those clans do whatever they want within their borders.
And they won't associate with so they have their group of churches that they will associate with. So to say, in my community, if a pastor, say from Indiana, like Napanee, Indiana, came to visit, he would have to sit with the members of the church. They wouldn't allow him to get up and preach. It's just the group that they're involved is those people. If a minister comes from that church, then they would ask him, hey, we would like you to have the sermon that Sunday. But if it's from another church that they don't associate with, he'd have to sit with the members of the church.
Now, Milo, why do the Amish people avoid using cars and like being on the power grid?
So the reason they avoid it is just because they believe that owning a car, so you could go to the bar to drink, easy access. If you have to use the horse and buggy, you can still get there, but it's not as easy access. So it's going to keep them from sinning, or maybe going to like a club that they shouldn't be in if they'd have that car. They believe that car could take them places that they shouldn't be. And that same thing with that electricity. Now they could get a TV, they could get the internet, and they could get all those things. And they just don't believe, some of them don't believe that they have the ability to say no to these things.
That is so interesting how different lifestyle choices can just change your whole perspective on things.
Yeah, and a lot of them actually will buy into that they actually believe it. I mean, they believe that they are living the right life. Like, I'm not living in the right life because I'm no longer Amish. It's just really wild. Being on both sides of the fence, being Amish and then not being Amish, and seeing all this stuff that, wow, they're actually believing a lie.
Yeah, you've been on both sides of the fence, and the Amish community has been very. It's pretty big, I hear. I mean, how different is the church different from the Amish community to like the outside world community, the church we're in today?
So it's actually quite a bit different. The Amish preachers actually have to memorize their sermons. They're not allowed to open their Bible to read the Bible. And so we would go in and they sing like 3 to 4 songs. And there's always one song that they always sing, that one particular song. So they go in, everybody sits down, and then they start singing. And then the ministers will get up and go either upstairs or they'll go outside to a designated area, and they have their meeting. Like, okay, Jonas did this. He was using a phone. We caught him. Like, he's in trouble. This is how we're going to address the situation. So they normally stay there 3 to 4 songs. Maybe the third song, they'll come in. And then once they come in, and then they'll finish that song, but then they'll stop. And then the first preacher will get up. He has no Bible, and he just kind of gives an opening speech and stuff like that in German with some Dutch mixed into it. And then they'll have somebody that will read out of the Bible, like maybe just a paragraph or whatever out of the Bible. And then, so back up the first time. So the first guy will stand up, preach, and then they'll like kneel down. And the way they kneel down is like silent. It's like a silent prayer. So all at once, if you're sleeping and you hear like boom, 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 like you just like reaction, you would kneel down. Then they get up, and then the guy would read out of the Bible. And then the second guy would stand up, and he would kind of have the sermon. And then the same thing after that, they would kneel down and pray again. But they read out of a book. They don't pray just a regular prayer. It's all written in a book. That's what they pray. So, and then after that, it would be singing one more song, and then they'll dismiss. So if somebody's in trouble, they'll say, all the brothers and sisters, stay seated, and all the young kids, get out. Like, you automatically get up if you're not a member and go outside. And sometimes it's maybe 20 minutes, 15 minutes, and they'll address the congregation and everything in there. And if you did something and they might strip that membership for a couple weeks, and then you come back, you actually will have to get on your knees and swear before them and God that you'll never commit that same crime again, which could be like being caught with a cell phone, a radio, smoking a cigarette that you're not supposed to, or any of that stuff.
Wow, most people won't even realize what an Amish community is like that.
Yeah, people on the outside looking in, they just see this amazing lifestyle. Like, this is a dream. I want to be Amish. These people are like God's people. But when you're in there, that's not the case. They're all human. They're fighting with each other. It can actually be kind of stressful because it's like the police are always after you because somebody's always watching you. No matter where you are, that person is watching you. And there's certain people that will actually kind of pick on you. And those people are always getting in trouble. So for me, it was just, I don't know, it was kind of, I had good memories in the Amish community in my family, but it just wasn't for me at a very young age.
Yeah, with that being said, Milo, I mean, what made you start feeling like the Amish community wasn't the life for you?
So when my dad moved in this community called Circleville, Ohio, my dad was a horse farrier. We always had a lot of non-Amish people come over, which the Amish call English because here in America, the language is English, not that you're from England. And so we had a lot of English friends. We started making neighbors for friends. And I started hanging out with my one neighbor all the time. And I would always tell him now, I'd be like, yeah, I can't ride that bike or I can't do this or I'm going to go to hell for this. And he would always tell me that's not true. So he actually sowed a seed in me. And I was like, really? That's not true. He's like, no, that's not true. And then I got disciplined for something to do. In the Amish community, you're not allowed to like speak about like how babies are born, how animals are born or anything like that. So my sister told one of my older brothers that my brother and I told her how goats were born. And I never said it. And my brother said he didn't. And in the Amish, where I come from, you would get disciplined with like the rod, what they call the rod. And I remember my dad, it came down to almost like abuse. And I know I went out in the field and I sat out there for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And I was like, I'm not going in. And that is the moment at 12 years old. I was like, if this is what it's like being Amish where you're not heard by your parents, I was like, I don't want to be Amish. I don't want to be Amish anymore. And then I went and told my oldest brother that I couldn't wait until I turned 18. He went and told my mom. And then my mom was like, why? And I was like, oh, it's just a cool age. And I tried to like play it off. But shortly after that, my dad moved us to a larger Amish community to try to isolate us. And the way I know this is because recently I had talked to some neighbors of mine that weren't Amish. And they actually said, yeah, your dad said he needs to move his family to this big Amish community so he can isolate us. And hopefully he can save his family and none of them would leave the Amish. But at that point in time, the bitterness was already there. And when he moved us, it was like stripping my soul out of me because I had so many friends there. I had everything I needed, my English people, my Amish people, everything was just really good. And it took everything away from me. So it was like up and down. Like, I mean, 1 minute you didn't really think about leaving. But as I got older, I was like, you know what? I need to make that decision. Do I not want to be Amish or do I want to be Amish? And just with all the rules, I was like, there's just no way that I can be a good Amish person.
No, Milo, what did your father get out of being Amish?
So my dad thinks like being Amish, like he was from a very strict community, like his dad was the bishop and just very, very strict. And that's just what he was taught. It's almost like he was kind of like brainwashed into thinking that that was the only way. Like, and he was always very strict. It was just, you had to follow the rules to a T. And if you didn't, it was just, he kind of reacted to it. And it was just like, I don't know. My dad was like, I lost my train of thought here, but, he just wasn't like, he was a very strict Amish person. And he thinks the Amish life is the only way that he can have like eternal life.
He learned it from your grandfather, and then
He learned it
he
from my
tried to pass it on
grandfather.
to
Just
you.
generation after generation. It's just passed down. Like my sister told me, I want to be Amish because my ancestors were Amish. So I want to make them happy. So that's kind of what they get out of being Amish.
With that being said, how did you plan your escape at 17, and what was the scariest part about leaving the Amish community?
So it took a little bit of preparation. I had a cousin that had left quite a few years before me. He lived in Florida, and he wrote in this paper called the budget paper. So I would actually read his whatever, and he put his address in there. He was selling this book, and I wrote him a letter, and I said, I want to leave the Amish, but I cannot tell you who I am. But can you please like put your phone number in that budget paper, and so I can give you a call. We can arrange for you to pick me up. Well, I think my mother kind of suspected that something was going on, and that particular week that the budget came, I never got that paper, and the phone number never found the phone number. So it was very hectic. I knew I had to get out. I couldn't get a hold of my cousin. I knew another friend of mine, and I was like, I went to him and I was like, I need out. Could you just pick me up, take me to your house, and I promise I'll be gone in a couple days. I'll be able to contact my cousin somehow. I'll be able to find it out. And but it was very numbing, like the days leading up, like getting my suitcase ready, figuring out what do I want to take, what do I not want to take. Like I had some treasures that I thought were like very nice and different things. And I had heard that I needed my report cards because I didn't have a social security number, or anything like that. In order to get that, I had heard that you might need that. And so I took some stuff. And that day was like, it was very wild because, I mean, I knew I was going to leave and I knew this is going to be my last time with my family. But leading up to that, I actually kind of like did things to make my parents mad at me, because if they were mad at me, I felt better about myself for some reason. Like I wasn't supposed to go up to the neighbors and give the English girls rides, and I would just do it anyways, just so I could feel good that my parents are upset at me. So I'm like, my parents are upset at me, so I have a reason to leave. But that day it was crazy. I mean, I got to eat breakfast, lunch, dinner with my family, and that night my dad wasn't at home. He was at the neighbor's house. My plan was failing. I didn't know if I could leave, because if I climb out a window and try to get away, he could come home the minute I do it. And he wasn't coming home. So I talked my mother into actually sending us all to bed before he came. Normally you would wait until your dad came home. We would all kneel down and pray. My dad would read out a prayer book and everybody go to bed. But my ride was supposed to show up. And so my brother, I had to exit through his room, and I went in there. I think I had told him kind of before that day that I was going to leave. And I had a suitcase and I had a rope up there and everything for him to lower my suitcase down and everything. And I remember jumping out of that roof, jumping off the roof, had to go get my suitcase, went in the shop. As soon as I got inside the shop, my dad came home. And I waited like 15 minutes. And then I went up, sat at the corner of the road, and my ride wasn't showing up. I literally thought that I would have to go back and crawl back into the window and remain Amish. But just as I thought that, my ride actually did end up showing up. And that was the end of it. And it was crazy because I had actually bought this pair of shoes that was kind of on the edge of not being Amish, but it was accepted. And I had bought those shoes on purpose because I wanted a good pair of shoes when I left, because I had nothing. And I actually ended up leaving those shoes sitting on the corner of the road.
I gotta ask you. I mean, how did your brother not snitch on you?
My brother and I were pretty tight, and I kind of took a risk, and I didn't think that he would. But then after I left, I actually got hooked up with a guy that I knew when I was Amish, and he gave me a job. And he actually said my brother broke down and cried when he was there. And later I asked my brother, I said, did you really like, and he said, oh, wow, I had to pretend like I did. But like, because I couldn't let the cat out of the bag that I knew and stuff. But later, my brother, a couple years after that, my brother actually ended up leaving the Amish too. But I felt so guilty because I wanted to take my brother with me, and he was a couple years younger than me. And but I did tell him, like, hey, when you turn 18, like follow my footsteps. And he has a different story of why he left, but he ended up leaving, and I ended up getting to pick him up right at my parents' house. Like, I drove in, and it was the most comical thing. He comes running out of the house. He had a shotgun, his suitcase, my mom, my brothers and sisters all behind him. And then my mother was accusing me of stealing her son because I'm taking him away from the Amish, but he was over 18 years old, so he could make a decision. My brother came down. My brother told me, like, look over your shoulder. And I looked around, and he said, the devil's standing right there, basically calling me the devil. And it got very hostile. And I was like, I told my brother right in front of my mom, I said, I just want you to know, I didn't ask him to leave. And I told him, if you want to stay Amish, you are more than welcome to stay Amish. But if you do not want to be Amish, I'm leaving. So hop in the car or stay. You got a choice. And he hopped in the car and left. He was very brave. It was such a hostile moment that my brother could have easily been swayed to stay Amish just because of the guilt that they put on you. And that's why I left out of a window, because I didn't want that guilt. If I would have faced my parents, they would have made me feel so bad of what I was about to do, unless I just didn't care, that I was like, I want to skip that. I don't want to say stuff that I shouldn't say. And I knew that if I would meet them, the possibilities of me leaving the Amish at that moment probably wouldn't happen.
Milo, what's the Amish values that you keep with your in your life today? I mean, your story goes full circle. It's really impressive.
So the Amish values I have is, I mean, I have my work ethics, carpenter skills that I have from the Amish. There's so much success that I have because I believe, because I was born and raised Amish. At a very young age, I was farming, I was doing carpentry skills and things like that. I think I have a lot more than I really notice I do. Just like, for me to live in the house, I don't need a ton of art or anything on the wall and all this stuff, like fancy couches, fancy this, fancy that, have all that fancy. I'm okay with just having like what I have. Like, it doesn't have to like stick out.
Do you ever miss anything from the Amish life?
So, there are, like, the Amish food is probably the number one thing, especially like my mother could cook very good. Like, Amish desserts like are really good. They make some of the best desserts. Now, there are some other desserts outside the Amish that I like as well, but it's it's not much to miss because of the way I am treated now. That they disown me, they want nothing to do with me. And when I show up, I feel like I'm going to my own funeral. So it really makes me not really miss anything. But I would say the food, I would love to have a relationship with my family, getting together with all my brothers and sisters. Now that I'm older, I've been away from them for a long time. I would love to have that, but I don't necessarily think is possible at this point in time. But that's something that I would probably say that I miss. I mean, just getting together with my family and stuff like that, and just trying to have that relationship that I haven't had for the past 25 years.
Yeah, why did you like decide to start sharing your story online?
So, I had a friend of mine actually kind of like told me, like, hey, you should like start sharing your story and stuff like that. And so I made one video, and then I started answering people's questions and questions and questions and questions. And it just finally became a normal thing. Like, it actually was like sharing my story. I felt like I could help somebody, maybe. Maybe somebody wanted to leave the Amish and they had a lot of guilt that they were leaving. Maybe I could give them some like peace about leaving, and letting them know that what they're being told is not necessarily true, and that they can actually have success outside the Amish community, like getting a job, stuff like that. When I left, I had $40 to my name when I walked out of that window. And today I'm very successful. I have my own business and everything like that. But like I said, my Amish skills, I feel like really helped jumpstart that.
Yeah, you taught me how to put a chicken to sleep.
Yeah, that was a funny video. We had chickens in the Amish, and my brother and I, like, we would always not necessarily put our chickens to sleep every day, but sometimes it was just a fun thing. We would just like, hey, let's put a chicken to sleep, and you put it to sleep and you lay it down and you'd be like, oh my gosh, the chicken's actually sleeping and stuff like that. And I always try to think of different ways of making different content and stuff like that. And I have chickens now. So I was like, I had thought about that and I was like, you know what? Maybe I should share to people how to put a chicken to sleep. A lot of people are wondering, why would you want to do it? Uh, like, I don't see, like, it's basically just for fun. It doesn't hurt the chicken in any way. It's not abuse or anything like that. And it was pretty cool. I had a lot of good reaction. The video got over 4.5 million views, which was amazing. But yeah, it's just figuring different things to share about my past.
Yeah, have you ever heard about like having a chicken and then drawing a line right in front of it and the chicken gets hypnotized?
I have actually never heard of that. I've never done that. That's not something that we did. But yeah, I've not heard that one.
I've seen it. I've seen my girlfriend do it, and it was like I was like the chicken's just staying there, just still like staring at the line right in front of it. It doesn't want to just frozen. I was like, whoa, like this is chickens are really cool to watch. I
They're
recommend people
wild.
to have. Yeah, yeah, I love them.
Yeah, that is wild. I never done that or never heard of that. But I've heard of different people tell me, oh yeah, like this person actually hypnotized the chicken. And but personally, I've not done any of that stuff. But not went that far yet.
Yeah, Milo, what's one of the biggest like myths that people believe about the Amish?
So the biggest myth is that people that believe about the Amish is they believe that the Amish don't pay taxes, that the Amish are exempt from paying taxes and stuff like that. To my knowledge, is they are not exempt from paying taxes, although I think like Social Security, Medicare tax, and stuff like that, because their religious beliefs. Some of the communities don't have Social Security numbers, but today in 2025, it is more common for Amish to have Social Security numbers because you can't get bank accounts anymore like you used to 10 years ago or 20 years ago. They require you to actually have that. So they're kind of forced to have that. They don't want to have social because they believe it's the mark of the beast. They don't want any number attached to them. So that is a big myth about the Amish. And the other myth is that people believe that the Amish are the most amazing people out there. I think they're just like everybody else. They're human. There's no difference between like, hey, I want to be part of that group because that group is amazing. They're just the most peaceful people. In amongst themselves, is not as peaceful as people think.
Do the Amish communities ever give you a chance to see the outside world, like to go like live inside of it?
Yes. So in my experience, when I was Amish, there was two guys that wanted to be Amish. And the main reason to be Amish is they wanted to date an Amish girl, which is most people what their dream. They want to date an Amish girl. It's just something they want to do. But they didn't realize that they can't date her until they become a member of the Amish church. So they had to learn Pennsylvania Dutch. It's something that's very hard for some people to learn. So they had to learn all this, and they lasted about 3 months. And then they just went back to their normal life because it didn't quite work out for them because they couldn't date the girl until they'd be a member. And it could be a year or 2 years. Like you have to prove yourself to them. But anybody outside the Amish community can become a member of their church. Like if you prove yourself, you can be Amish. But once you're in there, you have to knock your family off. But you can't let your family come over to your house because now they're an influence. So if you have English brothers and sisters, mom and dad, you would have to cut them out of your life, kind of, or not let them like come over and have the radio on and different things like that. Now, if you have tattoos on your arm, if you could cover those at all times, they would be okay with you being Amish. But if you can't, and then that would be another thing that you couldn't be Amish. If you have been divorced, you can join, but you can never marry, because the first woman you marry, that is your wife for life, is what the Amish think. So if you get remarried, that woman is not your wife. It's still the first one. So if she would die, so if your first wife dies, and then you could get remarried, but you couldn't get remarried until then. The Amish don't believe in divorce. So that is some things that could keep you outside the Amish community.
Milo, I have to ask you. I mean, how do people react when they find out you're Amish? You used to be Amish.
It was kind of wild. Like when I left the Amish, I didn't want people to know. Like I was like, so like, I wanted nobody to know that I was Amish. But then there was times where I would just be an open book and I'd be, oh yeah, I was Amish. But it was a crazy moment. This is one of the craziest things that I was asked. This guy came up to me and I was so like naive, didn't know anything. He's like, do the Amish dip? And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, and he went into this thing. I was like, and I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but it was kind of like pulling the car in or whatever. Like, how do I explain this?
I thought
Basically,
you were talking about like dipping, like put it in, like
not
chewing
dip
tobacco.
sticking,
Put,
not
yeah,
dip
that's what I was
soaking.
thinking.
He said, okay, it was wrong. I messed that
I
up.
was like,
He
oh,
said
he's
soaking,
putting something in
soaking.
his.
He
Yeah.
said soaking. He said,
Okay.
did the Amish people soak? And I was like, what are you talking about? Like, what is soaking? And he went into these details, and I was like, wow,
What is soaking?
what is soaking? So soaking is basically having sex without having sex. Like, so it's not really classified as having sex. So it's kind of called soaking. And a lot of people believe that the Amish do that. In my community, that was not allowed. But
I'll let the listeners just have their imaginations go on what's happening there.
yeah.
Now, Milo, do you ever get any messages from the Amish or from people that contact you?
I get some hate on my content where I know they're Amish. They're messaging me and the way they talk and stuff like that, and they're calling me a liar and this and that. I don't necessarily get calls. I don't have my phone number out there for people to call. They can email me, but most of them will just comment on my videos and stuff like that, and call me names and say stuff that they shouldn't be saying. Like you're like, you're Amish and you're saying stuff like that. You're like really like being fruitful here.
Well, it's funny how they're not allowed to have technology or barely use it, and they're trying to contact you through technology, the Amish.
Yeah, they're using it. They have no face, or they have like a truck. They have a truck on their profile picture, no picture of themselves. And there's a couple of them actually. I know a couple of Amish people, and they're not bashful about it at all. They have their picture on there. I don't know if they're allowed to or not. But I have here in Sarasota, I was in at the park where a lot of Amish people hang out, and I walked in there, and a lot of people are looking at me because, oh, they all know, like, hey, this is the guy who's talking about us, like. And I was talking to this guy. I didn't even know he was Amish. I would have said he would have been Mennonite, and I said, oh, so you're like Mennonite? And he said, no, I'm Amish. I'm like, really? He said, yeah, I watched you on like your whatever. He said, we're allowed to have phones and stuff like that, and I was like, okay, but yeah, a lot of them are like the stricter communities. They won't have profile pictures, but right away, the way they talk, they use very nasty language that is like doesn't really make sense. So you know that they're coming at me and stuff like that. And I've just learned to just have some thick skin and just not worry about the haters. And the more they do that, the more it pushes me to continue.
Yeah, what's your future plans with sharing your story?
So my future plans is, I mean, I'm trying to like, it's getting a little harder now since everything you answering people's questions and stuff like that. But I will probably do more traveling, and I've learned a couple different things that what people are really interested in, like going showing people different things about the Amish, like their baked goods, their community, like here in Sarasota, like Amish people from all across America. They come here every winter time to vacation and stuff like that. So I just have a very good opportunity to share with people about different communities. Like this community is not as strict, this one is, and just trying to educate people. Sometimes it's hard to get across, like you're trying to educate. And I always try to say, and like when I'm speaking is, I always say my community, because if I don't, and then I'm busted because I'm throwing all the Amish under that same category, and they don't want to be thrown into that category. So it's just, I hope that I can be an inspiration for people that want to leave the Amish, for kids that want to leave and they want to be successful. I'm willing to help people leave if they want to leave. I would never ask anybody to leave if they don't want to. But if somebody were to reach out to me and say they wanted to leave, I would do anything that I could to get them to a good place.
Now, with that being said, I mean, if you could tell your younger self one thing, what would it be?
Um, so if I would have done things a little differently. When I left, I would probably do things completely different. I would have probably just, and this might not be the right way, I would have probably just told my parents, I don't want to be Amish. Like, I don't want to be Amish. I am going to leave when I turn 18. Not try to be rebellious, but just let them know and not be bitter and try to like cause like chaos, but just let them know, and not to try to hurt them or anything like that. I wish I would have done that. I think things would have ended up a little better than to me just kind of like slip out the window and go and then come back and say, oh, let me come home to visit you guys. Let me do this. Let me do that. It didn't look very good
Now,
to
with
them.
your Amish background, what's your most popular home remedy that actually works?
So the most popular home remedy is actually taking the onions. If you take a sock and you put the sock around your neck and then you dice the onion, and my mom would always saute it. So we'd have like a very bad sore throat where you'd have like knots, almost like a strep throat. And then she would put the onions inside that sock directly against your skin. You would leave that all night long, leave that onion there. The next morning, you take it away and it would be completely gone. And there's another home remedy that works like really, really good. And that is if you have like a stomach ache where your like stomach is hurting so bad, is lemon, like a lime and some baking soda will knock it out like that. Those are two of the most best home remedies that, I mean, they work instantly.
What do you do with the lime and baking soda?
So the lime and baking soda, so if you would have a bad stomach ache, the other morning I woke up and I felt like I actually had to like throw up, like it was that bad. And right away, like I had some baking soda and I actually had a lime. So you put some of the lime juice on a spoon, just put a little bit of soda, like maybe 2 or 3 pinches, and just take it by your mouth. And it's like that. Um, my stomach ache went away. It was incredible of how that works. But those are the two remedies that really work. Most all the remedies that I share, I believe all of them work. I've had a lot of feedback of people telling me that you saved like us from going to the doctor and all these things. Now, I do believe that if you have a medical issue, you should consult the doctor. Like these home remedies are not for you not to go to the doctor or anything like that. It's just I'm sharing them. If you have high blood pressure, don't like consult with your doctor about it, but you can try some of this stuff, and if it increases, then like you can test it a little bit. So that's kind of what I'm sharing with people, is just trying to help people, and I like natural things.
Yeah, Milo, I've heard about the onion, but I've heard about people putting it on the bottom of their feet.
Yeah, I've my mother, I think I remember that too, like where she would put it in a sock.
Yeah, you could
Like
sleep
she
with it on or
put the
something like
onion in
that.
the sock, and you would sleep with that as well. She would do some of that. Sometimes onion on your chest with like so we couldn't have a heating pad, so we used like one of those things that you put hot water in. I don't know what you call those things. It's kind of like a thermos. I don't know. You lay it out on top of you, and then you'd lay there for like 2 or 3 hours and let that onion get in your chest. And that was something. And like peppermint tea, just different things that we would drink. Um, we very rarely went to the doctor. Like if we had sore throats or something like that, unless we really thought it was like a strep throat and it wasn't going away, we did go to the doctor. It wasn't like we weren't allowed to. It was just something that we would always run to the neighbors. Like as soon as we get sick, hey, can you run to the grocery store? Can you get us Coca-Cola or like different things like that to make these remedies? And then they would go get it for us and come back. And that's how we would make our remedies, get the products to make them.
And
Because a lot
this,
of people believe that the Amish don't go shopping at different stores, but they pretty much shop at every store that everybody else does.
wow, that's really interesting. I would think they would stay away from all of that.
A lot of people think that the Amish are very healthy. They're all natural, not using things like that. Um, Amish eat a lot of sweets, a lot of sugar. They intake a lot of sugar. Like when they make their food, they're always adding sugar into it. Their garden, I mean, we would use pesticides and stuff like that to keep our garden nice, but like weeding and stuff like that, my brother and I, we would have to pull the weeds and stuff like that. But they're not as healthy as you would think. A lot of people think that the Amish, like, there's no cancer, there's no Down syndrome, there's no none of that stuff. Two of my grandparents died of cancer. I've had a couple aunts that died of cancer. Cancer has been in my family very active. And I've seen many, well, not many, but 2 or 3 Amish kids in the community they had Down syndrome and polio, like different things like that. It runs in the Amish community as well as outside the Amish community.
Milo, I'll tell you this much. I don't think you're going to see someone from the Amish community going to a self checkout.
So here in Sarasota, yeah, they do go to self checkout and ring their stuff up. That was something that I remember when I was Amish and I had these scanner things. It was like the world is going to come to an end right then and there. That's what we were taught. Like this is like we believed it too. Like we believed it that was it. When those scanners came in, like that was the mark of the beast right there. And but now Amish have actually some Amish I know have like debit cards, and some of them actually. I mean, if they do have a social, I don't know if they have credit cards or not. But I have an uncle here in Sarasota, and he was telling me he lost his wallet, and he was telling me, yeah, I have my debit card in there. I'm like, oh, you got a debit card? Like, so he's got a bank card. But back in my community, it was cash and checks. Like we would write a lot of checks, and you would have cash.
Yeah, it's almost as if like the world evolves and then they kind of come with time, it seems like. They evolve over time, it seems like a little bit.
Yeah, they keep moving in that way, like less strict. So I left the Amish 25 years ago, and 25 years ago, God wasn't happy with some stuff that they allow now. And that's my question. Why is that okay now, but when I was Amish, that wasn't okay? And they're like, they don't necessarily have an answer. But the reason they allow this is because they can't keep their members Amish. So if they don't slowly creep and creep and creep and creep, they'll lose some of their members. Like in the community that I was raised in Circleville, Ohio, we had to have gasoline lanterns on our buggies with reflectors and stuff. Well, that community 25 years later has got a flashing light on their buggy now, which when I was Amish, that was totally forbidden. You could barely even have a flashlight. So just things like that, they keep moving in the way, which I do believe a flashing light is a must on a buggy, especially nowadays. There's been a lot of buggy accidents. It's hard to see buggies. And I think the Amish should realize that they're not only putting themselves at risk, but they're putting other people's lives at risk. And that is a thing that I believe every Amish community should have: a slow moving vehicle sign, a blinking light on their buggy if they want to be on the road. I think it should be enforced. But some of the communities, they don't want to do that because they just think that those bright colors are of the world, man. Like that would send them, they would actually rather go to jail and sit in jail than to enforce to put that blinking light on their buggy or that triangle. Like that is as hardcore as they are.
Wow. It's like it's almost as if like it's evil. Like they think most things are evil or it's the devil. That's their saying, right?
Yeah, that's their saying. It's like when I was Amish, I always felt like the devil was chasing me. Like we were taught you had to work. If you were idle and not doing anything, that's the devil's playground. Now, I know that runs outside the Amish community. People say that, but we really thought we had to be busy. I mean, just work yourself half to death and the devil ain't going to be able to catch you because you ain't going to be able to think about all these things. But you are. Like, even though you're working, all these thoughts can be running through your head about, okay, like me and my brother used to climb out at nighttime and we had a bike hidden across the road in the woods. And we would ride that bike at like 10 o'clock to midnight down the road. And then when a car would come, we would always just go in a ditch and hide in the ditch. And then once the car leave, we'd get back on and we would ride that bike 3 to 4 miles down the road and without anything. Like, it was just things that we did that my parents didn't know about.
So bikes were not allowed in the Amish community?
So in my Amish community, no. We had to have, like, there was no rubber tires. We had to have steel wheels on our buggies, or any of that stuff. Now, there are quite a few communities that do allow bicycles now. Here in Sarasota, they actually have e-bikes. They're allowed to have e-bikes, golf carts, and different things like that. But no, in my community, but the crazy thing is they didn't even allow a steel wheel bike. Bike just was totally not allowed.
Now, for someone out there that is struggling being Amish, what would you tell them?
I mean, if they're struggling to be Amish and they don't want to be Amish anymore, I would say to them, it's not like jumping the fence to the other side doesn't mean that you need to stop worshiping God. You can still have a relationship with God. You can have all those things. And it would just like be less stressful. I mean, just to be okay. Everything is okay on the other side of the fence. You're not gonna, all those things that you're told are just basically not true. And you're going to be much happier at the end. Once you make that transition, you're going to realize that you don't necessarily need your family. Freedom is worth more than your family actually is. And you can start living up to what you are versus living for what they are and what they actually will have you do. It's like kind of like a remote control. So once you get out there, you can actually live your own life and do what you want to do versus do what the Amish church wants you to do.
Yeah, you've traveled over 30 states. I mean, how has that changed your view on the world?
I've had an opportunity to, when I left the Amish, I came to Sarasota, I met up with some people, and there was this thing called a harvesting crew where you'd harvest wheat. So this company out of Kansas actually hired me. I drove all the way to Kansas. We went all the way to California. I went down to Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, into California. So we were in Bakersfield for quite a while, came back to Texas. Then we went all the way up to Wyoming, Colorado, all the way up into Montana. And we harvested a ton of wheat. But since I've left the Amish, I've been to quite a few places. My goal is to go to 50 states. I try to visit things and fly in airplanes. We weren't allowed to fly in airplanes. I love flying in airplanes. I'm up to about 120,000 miles now. So we'll see if we can get that million-mile status.
Milo, the show is called Every Day is Friday, and Friday has a special energy, whether it's freedom, excitement, or just feeling of accomplishment after a long week. I want to hear from you. What does Friday mean to you?
Fridays is always a good day. My wife and I always say it's finally Friday. And that means hopefully maybe you get to sleep in on Saturday. But Fridays is a different energy. And it's actually a pretty cool name. Every day is Friday. Some people, I wish they would actually think that, kind of like when they say it's Monday. I'm like, it's another good day. But from Fridays are good days, just in the mindset of knowing that you get 2 days of rest, or it's a weekend and maybe you can do fun things.
Yeah, bring that every day is Friday energy into everyday life, and I
That is a
appreciate it.
cool, I mean, if every day was Friday, every day be a good day. And that's a good mindset. I really like it.
I always turn things to be positive. If something's bad, this too shall pass. There's stuff that you have to look at that just like, oh, I only got a half a glass of milk. It's like, well, it's half full.
Yeah, be grateful for what you have, and think about that maybe you couldn't have that. And I try to look on everyday life the same way. I mean, when you have a bad moment, just take a breath and think about it, and just think about how good you have it. Like, you can turn bad into good very quickly. And that energy, just have that good energy. It can rub off on so many people, and you can make a lot of people's day.
That's right. Every day is Friday, everybody.
And every day is Friday.
And this is your chance to leave the listeners with something powerful. Is there anything else you want to share?
um So, I mean, just keep living your life, keep living your dreams, follow your dreams. Just if you want to leave the Amish, just know that you can do that. It's the other side of the fence is not going to make you where you can't have a relationship with God, and you can still have all that, and you can be happy. And freedom is actually very special. I mean, just the first night that I left the Amish, I felt so good. Everything just kind of fell off. The best night's sleep I ever had. And I don't know why. It was just, I felt like a lot of things. So I feel like that's one thing leaving my listeners to, especially my Amish people that are watching me on here, stuff like that. It's okay not to be Amish.
And all your information will be in the description down below. I want to make sure that people know where to find you. Where can the people follow and support your work?
So people can follow me on TikTok. I have Amish Milo. You can Google at Milo Miller. I have another channel that's called at Florida Boy 920. That's at Milo. And then Facebook, I'm very popular on Facebook at Milo Miller. And Instagram, I have Amish Milo _.
I know a lot of listeners got a lot of value out of this. It's been an awesome conversation. I appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
No, I really do appreciate you sharing your stories and experiences.
It's awesome. I like I said, it's an opportunity for me to get out there and grow my channel and reach more people, and hopefully I can rub off on somebody and make it every day's Friday.
Yes, you taught me a lot today about the Amish community, and I appreciate you being here. And to everyone listening, stay tuned for more amazing stories on Every Day is Friday. If you enjoyed this, make sure you follow, share, and keep that Every Day is Friday mindset going. Stay inspired and make every day feel like Friday. Till next time, everybody.
Every day is Friday, and you're living my